First released in 2018, Judgement is a new series of games from the creators of Yakuza RGG Studios. And last year, the sequel Lost Judgment released on consoles. Up to this point, we haven't seen this series at all on PC, and this is partially due in part to issues with the agency for the main character's actor. It was a big surprise to fans that Judgement and Lost Judgment dropped today on Steam with no previous announcement. With these games hitting the Steam store, my first natural question was, how do they run on the Steam Deck? So today we're going to be checking out the performance of both of these games on the Steam Deck, and it's really nice that these games both support FSR 2.0. They run on the Dragon engine, which is a proprietary engine created by RGG Studio. Hey guys, it's Connor from the Steel Lodge, and today we're going to be checking out the best way to hit 60 FPS and 40 FPS in this game, as well as comparing FSR 1.0, 2.0, and no FSR at all to see the image quality differences here on the Steam Deck. Let's dive right into the first game. Starting off, we're sticking with high settings and no upscaling at all, so this is running at native resolution. And as you can see in this scene, this is quite demanding on the Steam Deck, and we're hitting nearly 40 FPS, but not quite there. Performance of this game can vary a decent bit depending on the scene that you're in, but generally I found scenes like this to be the most demanding, where there's a lot of NPCs on the screen on a steady block. When it comes to graphics settings here, there's a few options, and definitely the best ones here to mess with for the Steam Deck are going to be the AMD FSR implementations. Now, as far as the other settings go, I found high to be a good middle ground. They honestly don't affect the frame rate as much as the resolution's going to. Now, when directly comparing the frame rate from a native image to FSR 2.0 using quality settings, we see around a 25% improvement in frame rate, bringing us to just shy of 60 FPS here. While we have these two pulled up side by side, let's do an image quality comparison. On the native one, there's a lot more crawling and shimmering on edges compared to the FSR 2.0 implementation, which does clean that up quite nicely. Things on the right hand side are a bit softer though. If you look at the character's hair, we definitely lose some details there. And if you look at the license plate of the car, it is definitely softer than the one on the left. On a smaller screen, I think these both look pretty good. And I don't think FSR is that big of a visual compromise here, and actually does improve some areas such as the flickering and crawling on edges. Now, if you want a pretty consistent 60 FPS, I would recommend dropping the FSR2 setting down to balanced and sticking with the high graphics preset, and maybe turning up the texture filtering to 16x. These two combat scenes aren't exactly like for like here, but I do have another scene of me running around using the balance setting, and the frame rate there is pretty consistent at 60 FPS. Now, when it comes to consistent frame rate, something I did notice while running around the city here is that there are frame time spikes that happen here and there. It's not too bad when you're on the go, but it is noticeable. Later on in the video, when I'm going over Lost Judgment, I will cover FSR versus FSR 2.0 versus native image quality more directly than you see here. Now, when it comes to hitting 40 FPS, honestly, I didn't mess with my settings too much. I turned a few things up, but mostly just kept FSR 2.0 on quality and locked it down. Now, this helps out massively with the battery life. Right now, we're getting a reading of 2 hours at 66% battery life, where previously we were at 75% battery life in my other test, and we're getting around an hour and 20 minutes of battery life. When testing the game out at native resolution, locked to 40 FPS also, I found the graph to be more inconsistent than what you see here, but just like what we saw with the 60 FPS mode, there are frame time spikes here and there. This could be due to shader compilation, but it's also there when you run around the city. Now I'll jump over to Lost Judgment. Now it is running on the same engine, so the graphics recommendations will be somewhat similar, but I will be doing a more direct comparison between FSR 1.0, 2.0, and native resolution in different scenes. Here with Lost Judgment, we are starting off once again at high settings at native resolution. And if we look at our frame rate here, we're hovering around 50 FPS, and I actually found the frame rate to be a little bit better in this title versus the first one in the areas that I tested. Off the bat, we're still looking for that 60 FPS target here, so I'm going to switch over to FSR at quality settings, and I was actually pretty surprised that we're hitting 60 FPS more consistently at quality settings than the first game here. This might just be down to the environments though. In Lost Judgment, I didn't really get to any nighttime scenes with a bunch of neon lights and reflective surfaces. It was mostly just daytime gameplay, although there are still a large number of NPCs on the screen currently. For Lost Judgment, I would actually recommend maybe sticking to the quality setting for FSR 2.0 and then locking the frame rate down to around 50 FPS, and that should give you a fluid experience. If you want to save on battery life once again here, lock things down to 40 FPS with FSR 2.0 at quality settings at the high preset with 16 times texture filtering, and you'll do pretty well here. Once again though, we will encounter some stutters here and there in the game. On the street corner, when directly comparing native resolution to FSR 1.0 and FSR 2.0, we can see that FSR 1.0 and 2.0 come very close to each other, right around the same FPS, and both of them are around a 14% improvement over the native resolution. Image quality wise, I have FSR 2 at quality mode and FSR 1.0 at ultra quality mode, and I can definitely tell that FSR 1.0 has the worst image quality here out of all the images. For texture clarity, native definitely takes the lead here, with FSR 2.0 following and then FSR 1.0 definitely in last place. Now, the shimmering and edge crawling that we see on native is definitely worse than FSR 1.0, and we actually do get some pretty annoying flickering in certain areas of the scene, around our main character's pants, and the bottom of this sign here. Now, one area I wanted to do more investigation into was FSR 2.0's ghosting, as it is a temporal solution. If I slow things down and zoom into the car, you can notice a trail behind it where it has traveled through. And then if I zoom over here to this pedestrian's feet, you can definitely notice that there's ghosting around there. That being said, the Steam Deck is on a pretty small screen, so I don't think you're going to be focusing on things like this. It'll be for more larger objects. Speaking of larger objects moving around, we have the main character running around the screen now with FSR 1.0, which is not a temporal solution, versus FSR 2.0. Now I'm going to slow this down and zoom into the character while he's running. Now here we can see some of the issues that do appear with FSR 2.0 when it comes to image quality. Fast-moving objects such as our player's arms and legs are quite a bit blurrier on the FSR 2.0 implementation versus the more well-defined look they have on the FSR 1.0 implementation here. All this is going to come down to personal preference for what you like the look of better. Personally, I think FSR 2.0 does look better than FSR 1.0 on the Steam Deck small screen. Some people might prefer the look of FSR 1.0, which has a lot more shimmering and edge crawling, but it is more well-defined on moving objects. The only game I've really played from RGG Studio is Yakuza Like a Dragon, which I really enjoyed. I haven't quite beat it yet, but I intend to. The other Yakuza games seem like a blast and play a lot more similarly to Judgement. So far, Judgement seems pretty fun, so I intend to go back to this one and play more of it once I wrap up the other games that I'm playing right now. Overall, the performance on the Steam Deck's pretty good, and luckily with these upscaling options, we can hit 60 FPS or 40 FPS pretty consistently. However, there are stuttering problems that the games do have, so hopefully that gets cleaned up in the future, and Steam can add something like shader pre-caching to make this smoother. That about covers it though, guys. Thanks for watching this video, and consider subscribing to the channel if you want more Steam Deck and gaming content. I've got some other stuff planned on the horizon. It's just taken a while to get through. Videos like these keep me busy in the meantime though. So thanks for watching and have a good one.